I don't even know if I mentioned that I'm making this because the Super Bowl is approaching. That was supposed to be in my intro. But if it wasn't, that's why. I don't like sports, but I do like feeding people. Hey everyone, welcome back to Vegan Kitchen. I hope you're doing well. In today's video and the next one, I wanted to share a couple of my favorite recipes to bring to potlucks, parties, any sort of gathering where you need to contribute a dish, and maybe there are gonna be some people who aren't vegan there and you wanna impress them. So in today's video, we're gonna be making a 7-layer dip. I took notes because I always forget what the 7 layers are. Got refried beans, some shredded lettuce, some salsa. We're gonna be making some homemade guac and some homemade vegan sour cream and homemade vegan nacho cheese sauce, and then topping the whole thing off with some black olives and some diced tomatoes. If you wanna take some shortcuts, you can of course just go to the store, buy some vegan cheddar style shreds. Daya makes some so delicious, follow your heart. And then you can buy a store-bought vegan sour cream. I would recommend the one by Simple Truth Organic. I think it has the best texture and flavor, but Tofutti makes one as well. However, that would make today's video really boring. I also just prefer to make it with homemade nacho cheese sauce and homemade cashew sour cream because it turns out to be actually pretty healthy, and I think it's always really nice at a party to have a snack that you can eat a bunch of and not feel like kind of sick and heavy afterwards. What I have here are all the ingredients for our homemade nacho cheese sauce. I will have the recipe in the information box below as well. This is just a spin on your classic cashew potato mac and cheese sauce, and we're adding a couple of seasonings to give it that Latin flair. We've got here what was 1 cup dry of raw cashews that I soaked for several hours. If you think ahead, overnight soaking is ideal. You want them to just be as soft and plump as possible so that your cashew cheese sauce is very smooth, especially if you're not working with a high-powered blender. Don't skip this step. We've also got medium russet potato that I peeled and cubed, as well as a medium carrot that I peeled and just chopped up, and I boiled these for about 15 minutes. You just want them to be super tender. So these are gonna be the base for our sauce. They're gonna take up most of the volume. We're gonna add them to our blender. This is about 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, which I'm sure if you've been vegan for a while, you know this just adds really nice, savory, cheesy flavor. It's pretty much a must-have for any sort of cheddar style sauce. So we're gonna add that in. Again, to boost the savory flavor, we've got a mixture of onion powder, garlic powder, and then some paprika. Adding a little bit of smoked paprika into this is really nice as well. I generally put a couple tablespoons of vegan butter in my cheese sauce. This is more for texture than flavor because cheese is greasy, and this just adds to that nice kind of creamy, luscious mouthfeel. But if you don't have any vegan butter, you can add in a little drizzle of any neutral flavored oil, or you can just skip it altogether, but I'm gonna add some in. This is just softened. This is the Country Crock plant butter. I'm gonna add in the juice from 1 lemon. This is gonna add that kind of cheesy tartness to it. If you don't have lemon or you're super sensitive to lemon flavor, you can also add in a few teaspoons of apple cider vinegar instead. And then you're gonna need a couple cups of an unsweetened plain plant milk. I have soy milk here. I really like using cashew milk. You can use water in a pinch as well, but using a plant milk is just gonna make it a little bit creamier. The recipe I have below calls for 2 to 2.5 cups, but that's typically when I use it as a sauce for some sort of pasta. And I want it to be a little bit thicker in this context because I'm gonna be layering all of our different components, and I want it to kind of like hold its shape, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna start with 1 cup of soy milk and then just add a little bit at a time until I reach my desired consistency. So 1 cup in to start. I also have here a brand new jar of some pickled jalapeno nacho peppers, and I'm actually gonna add in just about a tablespoon of the brine. It adds a nice kick. It's optional, but we're eyeballing a tablespoon of the brine. Then I'm gonna add in roughly a teaspoon of salt, but of course we're gonna adjust this afterwards. And then we're just gonna blend it. All right, we need a little bit more liquid. So I'm gonna use the tamper here just so we can get it all moving without adding additional liquid. All right, once it is smooth, go ahead and give it a taste, adjust for salt and pepper. Maybe you want to add a little bit of extra lemon juice, just depending on your taste. And then I'm going to add in some of the chopped pickled jalapeños as well, but you can skip that if you don't want it to be spicy. The recipe linked down below does make quite a large batch, as you can see. You might want to cut it down if you're just making it for the 7-layer dip, but I always like having leftovers because it makes for an easy weeknight dinner if you want to throw it on some pasta. Yeah, you can never have too much cheese sauce. So I did end up using just about 1.5 cups of our unsweetened plain soy milk, but it will kind of depend on the starch content of your potatoes as well. So, just add gradually. I'm gonna be pretty generous with the nacho jalapeños. We're just coarsely chopping them. You can add in some rotel as well if you want some, chunky tomatoes in here too. I'm skipping that today just because there's gonna be tomatoes elsewhere in our dip. All right, in we go. Okay, our homemade cashew potato nacho cheese sauce is done. I'm gonna set this aside and set up our station for some homemade vegan sour cream. There's a lot of different ways to make this. I like to use a combination of, again, soaked raw cashews and tofu as my base. You can use all one or the other, but I like the combination because the cashews are really high in fat, so they give this nice creaminess and fatty texture to it. However, I find them to be a little bit dense on their own, and I find that if you introduce a little bit of tofu, it allows you to get a bit more of a whipped, lighter consistency. So, experiment. You can use all cashews, all tofu, but I like both. Again, I'm gonna be making quite a large batch, but it's really good to have on hand because you can use it in so many different recipes. So I'm gonna use it actually as the base for another dip that I'm gonna be bringing to a Super Bowl party this weekend. But you can also add it to, pasta dishes to make things creamy into our blender. I'm gonna be using just half of a block. So I'm gonna kind of crumble this in here. If I weren't making this for a video, I would probably just be using a little bit of this vegan-friendly lactic acid powder. I got this on Amazon. I'll have it linked down below. It's really great to have if you're super into making like faux vegan dairy items or any sort of vegan cheese, because this is actually the byproduct of fermentation, so it gives you a really convincing kind of cheesy flavor. However, I know not many people will probably have this lying around their pantry, so today I'm going to be using both lemon and some apple cider vinegar. You gotta be kind of careful with lemon because regular sour cream does tend to have a pretty neutral sour flavor. So I'm just gonna be adding not even the juice from a full half of a lemon. I do like to add a little bit of lemon though because it does give that brightness. And then I'm gonna be adding a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a few teaspoons of this. I got these magnetic measuring spoons and I really like them because I'm someone who's always misplacing my utensils. I am gonna add a little bit of salt. That's totally optional. Some recipes that I've seen online recommend adding a little bit of nutritional yeast, but I don't think it's the right flavor. Again, I don't think it's like neutral enough to be sour cream. So this is all we're adding. If you don't have a high-powered blender, this one I would probably recommend making in a food processor if you can, just because we're adding less liquid than for the queso. I'm gonna be using the tamper just so that I can get everything moving. I am gonna add a couple tablespoons of water. And again, this is kind of gonna vary depending on the moisture content of your cashews and your tofu, so add gradually. And then once it's as smooth as you can possibly get it, go ahead again and give it a taste, and you may need to adjust a little bit for the lemon and the apple cider vinegar, just to preference. Then we're gonna set this aside. I'm gonna show you how I like to make my guacamole, and then we're gonna go ahead and start assembling our dip. I prepared all of my guac ingredients earlier. I'm in love with these like reusable lids. Instagram marketing worked on me, you guys, but they're really handy. So I will have linked down below my guac recipe on my website. I put a lot of extra things in it. You don't really have to. I basically make pico de gallo and then add avocado to it. Got a buttload of ripe avocados that I peeled. Lots of cilantro. I love cilantro. Lime. I've got a minced red onion and a minced jalapeno. I did leave some of the seeds in because I like it spicy. I typically add some diced tomatoes to my guac, but since the tomatoes are going to be occupying a different layer of the dip, I thought I'd just leave them out. And then I typically leave my guac pretty chunky, but for the sake of this dip, I want it to be a little bit smoother, just so that it's easy to, you know, get a chip in and it doesn't break. I think I used 4 avocados. And again, I am planning to have some leftovers. I'm gonna add in all of the jalapeno. It's one kind of like medium-sized jalapeno. I'm not gonna add in all of the onion though. I cut up a half of like a medium red onion, and I'm probably gonna add half of this, so roughly a 1/4 of a medium red onion. It's probably roughly, I don't know, 1/4 a cup of chopped cilantro. I like a lot of lime. This is a preference thing, so I'm just gonna add an entire lime. Might even add a little bit extra as well. I like to add fresh garlic to mine. This is one pretty large clove that I minced as finely as possible. Some salt. And then I like to add quite a bit of black pepper. And then this is optional, but I typically like to add a couple of dashes of whatever my favorite hot sauce is of the moment. So I'm adding a little bit of the Marie Sharp's habanero pepper sauce. And we're giving it all a stir. Oops, cilantro overboard. I always select a mixing bowl that's just one size too small. All right, we love that sound. I think it's ready. Our last step is to just assemble our dip in a dish. I think it's nice if you can use one that's clear so people can see the striations. I'm using this because it's kind of shallow. You don't want it to be so deep that you can't like get your chip to the bottom of it. And I'm not sure if there's any sort of like established prescribed order in which these things should be layered. I kind of just wing it. I like to start with the beans at the bottom. I'm just using a can of refried fat-free beans. But this is the sturdiest ingredient, so it makes sense that it would be the base. I typically serve this chilled, but if you wanted the bottom layer to be warm, that could be cool too. Sometimes I add like spiced vegan taco meat to this as well. Like I just buy a bag of Gardein beefy crumbles and saute them with taco spice. Then I say, let's go in with our guac. Gotta clean up the sides just because I care more about aesthetics than anything else here. I'm gonna add a thinner layer of the sour cream. I feel like it's the least consequential part. That could just be my opinion though. I'd much rather have extra guac and queso than a lot of sour cream.
How you doing?
I'm gonna finish just in time. I'm gonna finish it and then we're gonna get into the garden leave.
Perfect. I'm gonna feed the dog.
I fed him. He probably needs to go out though.
Melvin! Oh, he came sprinting. He came sprinting for his daddy.
Gonna add in a nice fat layer of our queso. It's actually very satisfying to spread this. We're gonna top it with some shredded lettuce. I shredded it as small as possible, just so that it would be easy to scoop up. I entirely forgot to add the salsa layer. Babe, what should I do?
Did you really?
Yeah. I was so excited about all the things that I made. Do you think it needs it? Should I just put it on top?
You can put it on top.
We've got some mediocre salsa here. It was on clearance for 25 cents. I'm not sure why. It's actually decent. So I'm gonna We're gonna get a salsa layer in here. We're getting dangerously close to the top. Dang it, I wanted the lettuce to be on top. I truly messed it up. It's fine.
Can I tell you a secret?
It's just aesthetic.
Can I come in the shot?
Yeah. Use the entire thing. Now I'm gonna have to sit so carefully with this on my lap in the car.
Baby, let me tell you something.
What?
It's okay. The 7 layers are still there.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's gonna taste the same. It still looks beautiful.
I wanted the lettuce to be on top. I guess I
Red's
can
a
put
great
more
color.
lettuce. Red's a great color.
I'm just trying to support you.
Okay, we're gonna do. Oh God, I'm so mad. I'm so salty.
These are salty.
Yeah. So a little bit of more lettuce for aesthetics. God, I ran out of space. We got some chopped, diced tomatoes. I took the seeds out just so there wasn't extra moisture floating around in here.
There's so much leftover guac.
I'm hurrying because we're trying to get to Dungeons and Dragons. Some black olives.
You want to throw a D20 in there?
Yeah, why not? A little bit more of that finely minced red onion. Okay, it's looking cute now.
It's beautiful.
Fine.
That onion is so finely minced.
Yeah, it is.
I would be impressed if I weren't used to your cooking skills.
What else can we put? A little bit of diced jalapeno, just for color, and so people know what to expect inside the dip. I feel a little tempted to put a couple of dollops of guac, but I feel like that might be overboard. Plus, I don't know how I'm gonna transport this as is, so I'm gonna stop.
Oh, you know what you should add?
What?
A little bit of Monica in my dip. A little bit of Rita.
Are we on tequila?
You know
Of course
that
I know that song. Are we?
No.
Okay, good. I'm like, how am I gonna play Dungeons and Dragons without tequila?
Will you drink whiskey?
No, absolutely not. I'll bring that.
So I'm gonna bring 9 beers, a bottle of tequila, and a bottle of whiskey,
Yeah.
and well, I guess we're sharing. It's for sharing.
Here's our vegan 7-layer dip. Sorry we've gotten more frantic as the end draws near. Thanks for joining me. I will have the recipes for the nacho cheese, the sour cream, and guacamole in the information box below. Check back on my next video for another couple recipes that you can bring to parties, potlucks, gatherings, or to the Super Bowl this weekend if you're watching this on time. I don't even know if I mentioned that I'm making this because the Super Bowl is approaching. That was supposed to be in my intro. But if it wasn't, that's why. I don't like sports, but I do like feeding people. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you very soon. Bye. Ooh, the queso is spicy.